Buttonholes are built into this machine and they are easy to use. Start off by touching 0. You're going to notice that you'll get to the stitch of a buttonhole. The foot that it has you put on is not lettered, but it is the one with the red wheel you find in your accessory box. That's what that little kind of nub sticking out is all about. The symbol of the reverse button is going to indicate that it's going to start at this part and then go backwards and then turn around for you completely. I'm going to show you where you plug this in, but before I do, I'm going to show you there is a special white crown right here, and it'll indicate as a white marking. Should you not have this at the tip, even with a white line on the foot, before you start to stitch, a message will come up and remind you that that needs to be adjusted. I don't try to get this just perfect before I stitch, because once I put my fabric in, it tends to move it, and then so it's the last thing I do. But just so you know, that's what we need to do. Take off your presser foot. Just slide it on like a regular foot. Now you will notice in your accessory box, you will have an identical foot as a buttonhole foot, but without the automated wheel that's on it that is plugged in. This is a manual version, so you can actually make them longer than you might need or be able to repair buttonholes. So I'll show you how this works. I'll even show you how to do a corded buttonhole. So we're going to take our foot, the little plug in here, this part from the front of the machine to the back. It's about halfway back that you can almost feel it with your finger or tip your head underneath so you can feel where it needs to go. And then make sure you give it a good press all the way up. If you don't push it all the way in, what's going to happen is the buttonhole's going to go backwards and keep going backwards and won't ever turn around for you. So we call those runaway buttonholes in our classes. So just give it a little push, make sure it doesn't go up any further, and you know you're there. Next, take your button and place it on the measuring tool on the front of your machine. Down here where it says 0, there's a dotted circle. Place the button at the 0 mark and come over here. This one says 17 millimeters. On the screen, you're going to notice when you go right into a buttonhole, actually once you plug the foot in, it will bring up one more step that will indicate you telling the machine how long you want the buttonhole to be. So with your arrows up or down, you can set the length. So I'm going to just set it to 17 millimeters. You can shorten it or lengthen it, but it always starts at 16. So that's how we measure this in. Now, next, one thing I'm going to always advise is keep in mind the buttonhole is going to go reverse first. So if you start right here, you're going to run out of fabric really soon. So just turn your fabric, start towards the edge of it. Now that the fabric's in here, I'm going to lean this way to the left and I'm going to roll this red wheel so the white crown and the straight line are lined up. If I don't, when I start to stitch, I'm going to step on the foot control and it will have a message, adjust white area to white line. Touch OK to remove that, and lift up the presser foot and adjust it properly. Now when I go to sew, it's going to do the whole buttonhole for me. It's going to stitch all the way back, straight stitch, and it will turn around with the satin stitch, coming back over the straight stitch it just stitched. It'll come back down to where we started, and it'll turn around and go back to the end again. Lock it at the top, so that little tack. And so all you need to do is keep your foot on the foot control, or you could have pushed the start stop button and not had to do anything. Tacks at the top and locks, and just keep your foot on the foot control until it comes to a complete stop. Raise up the presser foot and cut your thread. That is how easy a buttonhole can be done. Open this up and then test your button through it, make sure it's the right size, and then you can continue on. So all you need to do is put a starting point of where each buttonhole is to start and then continue with however many you need. Now there are other styles of buttonholes up on the top of your machine. So stitches in the first row, stitch 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 are all different buttonholes. Now some of these will require you to take this foot off, but let me show you first a keyhole buttonhole. So I'm going to pick stitch number 26. You can also put in for the length and measurement you want. Set the white crown once again to be even with the white line, and then go ahead and sew. A keyhole buttonhole is for any button that has a shank, you know, that comes out the bottom without the eyes, usually found on a coat, and that will allow for a little extra thread to sit in the key part of it. And so there's room for that extra shank and not just in the, kind of the square part at the end of a traditional buttonhole. So let's just keep on going down here again. I just step on the foot control, So until it stops, raise up the foot, cut the thread, and that is a beautiful keyhole buttonhole. You've got other ones up here, like a stretch buttonhole. So if I had gone down over to the side here, told it I'm doing stretch fabric, and told it I'm doing a buttonhole, it's going to pick the right buttonhole for me, and even with a new little symbol that indicates to cord it and which foot to actually use. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take this foot off, switch over to my manual buttonhole foot. It has a little nub on the end. That is what we're going to use around with the cord prior to putting this in. So I'm going to just take some cord here, cut off a length that I can make it long enough because you're going to actually double it up. So same thing, we're going to start at the, you might say, beginning of it, because it is going to sew backwards. I'm going to take the cord and its loop here and hook it around that back part of the foot. Now the foot actually has 2 grooves underneath it, so that is going to track this cord. So when I go ahead and stitch, we're going to go ahead and it's going to just stitch up backwards with a satin stitch. It's actually pulling the cord for me. Now with this one, I would have needed to mark a beginning and an ending point. So I'm going to just go ahead and sew a little bit further. When I'm there, that's what the reverse button's for. A touch of that button will tell the machine when to turn around. It will do the tack at the top and then go ahead and stitch down the right side of my cord. I will need to stop it myself because it doesn't know where we started. Touch the reverse button again, and you'll even see there's a little arrow kind of showing you what part it's going to stitch. Now it's going to do the tack at the bottom, and then it'll stop for me. Done. So a corded buttonhole is for when you have fabrics that are a little stretchy and when you don't want it to actually pull out of shape. Look at this. Then all you do is take one of the legs of the cord, here we'll get this one over here, and give it a pull. It's all nice and loose here, so when you pull it down so it disappears, then you take your scissors, and I just cut it straight. Some people will actually take these on a needle and stick them down through the fabric and tie them to the back side, but they're really not going to go anywhere because they've been stitched over. It also gives it a little bit of a raised feel to them, so it looks very professional, but you'll see that that has no give whatsoever. So try out your other buttonholes. Buttonhole number 28 is a straight stitch one. That one will be good for leathers or vinyls, something where you don't want to actually perforate it when you sew. You also have a jeans buttonhole and an oval one at both ends. So you've got a variety, just depends on what you want it to look like on your finished project.